Today we'll learn in Parshas Tzav about what's called the Shlamim offering. We talked about it a little bit in last week's Torah portion, but not all of it. And especially here, we're going to talk about the Toda. Toda is one of the Shlamim offerings. Shlamim offering is called the peace offering, and it's called peace offering because, as we said before, part of it is sacrificed on the altar, part of it is eaten by the Kohanim, and part of it is eaten by the owner. So everybody gets happy. That's why it's called the Shlamim. Everybody's happy from the offering. And here the Kli Ykar says even more. And it says, the Kli Ykar, Rav Shlomi Lunchitz, he says, Lo ne'amar, it's not, doesn't say Asher takrivu Hashem. This is that you should sacrifice to God by any of the other sacrifices except by the Shlamim. That because the Shlamim offering comes without any, not because of any sin. And this is just coming to be close to God, more than all the other sacrifices, which come because you did something wrong. Now you want to come back. And this is the reason why it says, we're going to see later on, it's going to say, it says that you should bring your sacrifice. Who brings the sacrifice, the Shlamim sacrifice to God, Yavi et Korbanot, that the person himself brings the sacrifice to God. Yadav Taviano, his hands should bring the sacrifice to God. His Kli Ykar, all of them are mentioned that it brings, the sacrifice goes to God. But in this one, it says, it says to God, Ki ba'ele chafatzti no Hashem. This is what God really wants. I bet you mean, look to your right and see, Shalo yizkir b'shum korban, there's not, none of the other sacrifices is mentioned, Yavi b'yadav, Yadav yabi eno, your hands should bring it, except in the Shlamim offering. Why? Because anyone who angers the king and wants to appease the king, so to clean off the king's anger at him, so he'll bring some sort of a gift to the king, but he doesn't come himself because the king will get angry as soon as he sees him. So he sends it by means of an emissary, Derek Doron or Kavod, that he brings it. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. Like it says by Yaakov, like Yaakov, he wanted to appease Esav, so he sent gifts in front of him, but he didn't bring it himself. But a person who brings the king just a gift as just a free offering to show the king how much he loves him, or then he brings it in his own azu mevi mincha biyadav. Then he brings it with his own hands. And this is the difference between the other sacrifices, the chatas and the asham, that come because of a sin, and also an ola, which comes because of bad thoughts, and a shlamim. And this comes in order just to appease the king, right? And because why? Like I said, everyone eats it. So let's take the first one. Ima Toda, if it's because of thanksgiving, you bring it. So you bring this offering, 4 different types of breads along with the offering. Matzot that are soaked in oil, rikiki matzos that are smeared with oil, solit murveches chalot that are baked like in loaves, belula b'shemen, and then also lechem chametz. The 4th type is chametz, like we said, unleavened bread. You bring the sacrifice. This is the only sacrifice that's brought with unleavened bread. Like we said, the 2 breads that are brought on Shavuot, and on the day of Shavuot, is also chametz. But except for that, these are the only ones. 40 loaves altogether, 40 of each type. 10 of them are soaked in oil, that are smeared with oil, that are boiled, and that are chametz, that are raised up. They're baked. Two of them are baked, and this one is one of the two that's baked is chametz also. Hikrid mimenu echad mikol korban truma l'Hashem. You should bring a sacrifice to God, to the Kohen that throws the blood. A Shlamim lo yeh, he's going to get a portion of it. The Kohen is also going to part. One of these breads of each and every type, the Kohen takes, that's doing the work, and the rest is eaten by the owners. And also the flesh of this offering is to the owner, except for the portions which go to the Kohanim, which are the chest and the thigh, which are in it, like it's explained before. And of course, then there's the parts that go to the Toda. It has to be eaten on that day, and it can't be left until the morning. Right? You can't but you can eat it the whole entire night until the rabbis say until midnight, but really it could be eaten until the morning, but they just say until midnight it has to be eaten to keep people from doing a sin. Okay, that's one type, is just giving thanks. Now, what do you give thanks for? It says there's 4 types of things you give thanks for, and Rashi enumerates what they are. If a person, when he goes across the sea, or if he gets, let's see, where can we find this Rashi here? No. Either he goes out, finishes a long journey, or he gets out of prison. Or he was very ill and he got well. Here, 1 second. Let's see if we can find the sentence. I went over this, but I just don't remember. Let's see. 1 second. No. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay, here it is. This is giving thanks for a miracle that's done. Like, for instance, a person who crosses over a long journey, or over the sea, over the desert, a person that gets out of jail, asurim, a chule shemit rapeh, and a sick person that gets better. Right? This is 2. A person that goes over the sea, and another one is that crosses the desert. As all these people have to give thanks. These 4: going across the sea, going across the desert, getting out of prison, and a sick person, a very sick person that gets healed. You go and give praise. And we also have a blessing that you go in the synagogue to say, and you say, what's a gomel? A gomel means that God, you gave me undeserved miracles. All of these are written in Psalms, Kuf Zayin. You can look and see Psalm number 107. It says, give thanks to God on his greatness and the wonderful things that he does with man. It says, and when afterwards it says, Toda, that you should offer a sacrifice. And on these it says also a person that goes across the sea and etc. You can see in Kuf Zayin over there all the good things God says to do. We say this also, the Psalm is also said, just 1 moment. Let's see if I can find it. Right before, it doesn't have it over here. Okay, right before Shabbat, we say this also. This is prayer saying the introduction right before Mincha of Shabbat. And the 4 types of bread. Okay, let's have a look at something else here. This book we had before of Mizvot HaShem. Remember Mizvot HaShem? This is Mizvot HaShem. One of the commandments, 1 moment. One of the commandments, 1 moment. 1 moment, please. Let's just do this here. From the book Mizvot HaShem. It is a positive commandment to to do the Shlomim offering. Like it says, this is the law of the Shlomim. Shlomim, it comes from oxes, sheep, and goats, male or female. You can bring either one. There's 4 different types of Shlomim offering. One of them is Shlomi Tzibur, offerings brought by the community. And this is mainly the 2 sheep which are bought on Atzeret, on the holiday of Shavuot. These are called Shlomim. There's also 3, those are offerings that, of course, they're brought by the Kohen, so everybody in Israel can't eat them. But nevertheless, it's called Shlomim because it's under the laws of the Shlomim. You bring all these different types of breads. We'll talk about that. And there's 3 types of individual Shlomim offerings that people bring. And one of them is brought without any bread. This is brought by Shlomi Simcha. Every time, 3 times a year, every Jewish male had to go up to the Holy Temple, and so it's going to be when Mashiach builds the 3rd temple. And you brought these offerings, sheep or a goat or a cow, but there was no bread. You didn't bring bread. It was a Shlomim offering because the people ate it. Then there's 2 other types which come with bread. That's what's called a neder and a nedava. That's if you vow to give an offering to the temple for thanks. That's what's called a korban Toda, a thankful offering. It's a free will. With this offering, you bring, and we said what it is, it's a cow or sheep or goat. You also bring bread. That's called lachmi Toda. These are 4 different types of bread, namely 10 loaves, eser chalot, of chametz, and each one of them is made from 10 esronim, and esron is a certain measure. 30 others were matzah, unleavened bread, and each one of those come from 10 esronim. 30 loaves. 10 of those loaves are like fried in hot water, and then they're baked a little bit, and afterwards they are roasted. Lost the place. Here we go. They're roasted, or like thin fried in oil, revi talug. That's called revucha. That's 10 of the 40 loaves. So 10 of them are made from chametz. They're allowed to raise up. The other 30 are not raised up, but they also differ. There's 10, they differ one from each other. 10 of them are lightly roasted, lightly fried. Eser chalot mushachim b'shminit log shemen. 10 loaves are just smeared with oil. That's called rikikim. Those are made like wafers. 10 of them are solet b'shemen shmini talug. They're mixed in with a half of a log of oil, and then afterwards you knead them and you bake them. That's called chalot mafe tanor. They're baked, but it's matzah, but nevertheless they raise up a little bit. These 3 types of shlomim. There's 3 types of shlomim. That a nazir is a person that makes a vow not to cut his hair and to avoid wine and to avoid defiling himself for a dead body. That's a nazir. When he finishes his nazirut, this vow of being a nazir, then he brings also an offering, and he also brings bread. That's the offering is called an ayil nazir. It's a ram. That's a nazir. How do you make all of these offerings? It says you bring the sacrifice, you put your hands on it, press your hands down on the sacrifice. We said you stand off to the side. You say words of praise and thanks. Then you slaughter the animal any place that you want to, not where the altar is. You throw the blood on the altar, on the bottom half of the altar, twice, once on each corner. On each corner, one corner is the corner on your right when you come in, which is called the northeast corner. You come in from the side of the east, so the northeast corner, and then the one that's opposite it, which is on the left side but closest to the tent of the meeting. That's called Marvit Dromit, on the southwest side. And you try to put this blood on the corner so that it should hit both sides, like sort of like a V, I suppose. And then you take the parts that you're going to burn up on the altar, take them, and also the chest and the leg of the owners give it to the Kohen. The Kohen puts his hand underneath the owners and lifts the whole thing up. And that's what's called Korban Toda. It's Mina Lechem, Echad Miasara. He takes one of the 10, each of the 10, there's one of each of the 10 types of bread. So the Kohen gets 4 loaves and he lifts them up, and the Kohen, and he sacrifices this. In the case of the Nazir, he sacrifices this ram, and the Kohen takes the Nazir is a little bit different from all the others, because the Kohen, he takes the leg of the animal and he boils it with one of the 10 breads which comes with it, and the chest and the leg of the pieces that are going to be sacrificed, and he puts on his hand, put out the hands of the Nazir, and the Kohen puts his hand under the hands of the Nazir, and he lifts the whole thing up, lifts the sacrifice up, lifting it up. Then after that, he puts salt on the parts that he's going to burn up, and he burns them on the altar. Those are the other parts. But the chest and the leg and the bread that he lifted up, and also this, in the case of the Nazir, this boiled leg of the animal, this is the Kohanim get the whole thing. They get to eat it. They and their wives and their children and their servants. But all of the rest of the meat of the Shlamim, so like the inner parts, that's burned up on the altar. And there's other certain parts that are burned up on the altar. And the Kohanim, they get the chest and the leg. And all the rest of it is eaten by the owners anywhere in Jerusalem. This is eaten one day and one night. One night. That's the Toda. All of the other Shlamim offerings, they can be eaten. The Toda is only one, and you only get that day and the whole entire night. The Holy Temple doesn't work at night, right? So the whole night you can eat it until the morning, technically. But the rabbi said only until midday. And all of the other types of Shlamim that were brought, you have 2.5 days to eat it. This, of course, is only in the time of the Holy Temple, and only the Kohanim have the commandment to actually burn this, but every Jew brings the sacrifices. Even women can bring the sacrifices. This particular sacrifice, Neder and the Dava. And in fact, non-Jews can also bring this free will offering too. If all these laws with the bread applies to the non-Jews also, I don't know, but I know that they can bring this offering as well to the Holy Temple. Non-Jews can. The free will offering. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Tomorrow, God willing, we'll discuss the 7 days of the inauguration of the temple, which that's going to be preparation for next week's Torah portion, which is called the 8th day. And we'll talk about that, God willing, tomorrow. Have a good day with Mashiach now.